Hey guys, welcome back to another The Unofficial A&R video, and today I would like to talk about an album which was released earlier this year by an artist that we haven't really seen in a while. That artist is none other than Kid Ink, who released the deluxe version of his album Alive at the beginning of this year. Now, Kid Ink. For most casual listeners of Kid Ink, they probably haven't heard anything from him since 2015 to 2016 when he released Summer in the Winter with platinum-selling single Promise featuring Fetty Wap. Kid Ink has dropped a bunch of other things since then, but nothing has really come close to Kid Ink at his peak in 2014 or even before then. Kid Ink's once upon a time relatively effortless, summery, commercial LA sound was really one for the books in the early to mid 2010s, and for the short amount of time that he was extremely popular, he released a ton of music which I would consider to be timeless, especially when he worked with artists like Chris Brown and Mustard. Show Me was a classic, obviously, Main Chick, Be Real. He had a bunch of hits. And then one day he just wasn't as popular anymore. And I've always wondered why that is. To this day, I don't really know what caused Kid Ink to fall off the face of this earth. I speculated that perhaps he was changing his sound too much and might have been coming across as a bit too poppy for his OG followers, but at the same time, I've also come to the conclusion that maybe we just outgrew the era of Kid Ink-esque, very evidently commercial pop rap music. The early to mid 2010s was just a pop overload, and I would say that there were a bunch of pop rappers thriving at this time, such as the Wiz Khalifas, the Cali Swag Districts, Fetty Wap, and that era is very different to what we are listening to today. At the time, pop rappers were very alive, fun, club orientated, very easy on the ear. Their lyrics weren't too complicated. You could actually understand what they were saying, all of which is evident in Kid Ink's music. The state of rap today, however, is very moody. It's not as fun or club focused or vibrant, and mumble rap is very much the thing right now, which almost makes rappers like Kid Ink almost seem too simple. Which is crazy, right? Because simple can be very effective, but it just shows how things have changed and how people naturally start to look for more. Not necessarily in terms of subject matter, but in terms of delivery. Listening to artists like Kid Ink in today's rap climate would almost be like wearing all yellow to a funeral. Everybody would look at you like you're at the wrong function, because the delivery is just so different to what it is that we expect to hear nowadays. So anyway, I've listened to this Alive album just to see if Kid Ink is very much the same old Kid Ink, or to see if there's been any sort of growth or change since how he used to sound at his peak. There are a few highlights for me on this project. I want to start off with New, which has a very bouncy beat. It twirls through the headphones quite nicely, the hook is very catchy, and immediately makes me reminiscent of 2012 Kid Ink, where his hooks were always stuck in my head. Other songs which are very definitive to me, predominantly because of their instrumental and hook, include Red Light, which very much reminds me of Be Real featuring Dej Loaf. It's got this very underground, dark, deep club bass, just like Be Real, and the chorus is catchy. It immediately stood out to me when I first heard the album. In fact, if you like Be Real, you must like this song. They are so similar. The 3 star songs for me on this album consist of Run Up the Check, Warm It Up, and Breaks. These songs just have up and away Kid Ink all over. They remind me of songs like Time of Your Life and Hell and Back, which are some of my favorite Kid Ink songs of all time. Very nostalgic to me and gives me the feeling that Kid Ink really never went anywhere. Fenty Secrets is a great romantic, but not to the extent of cheesy ode. It stands out because it's relatively slower in pace in comparison to everything else on this project, which maintains a mid-tempo pace at least, and the lyrics are definitive due to its clearly different subject matter. Kid Ink experiments with the pitching of his voice, and the sample used for the breakdown in the chorus works really nicely here. I'm not sure if it's a Rihanna song that was used for the sample, I don't think it is, but the sample used sounds quite similar to a sped up Rihanna track. Overall, this song is definitely one of the most definitive on this project. 2 of the songs featuring ISM also deserve an honorable mention, those being Out of the Blue and All in Her Head. Although they don't stand out to me as much as the songs mentioned beforehand, they do have a nostalgic 2010 to 2014 romantic hip pop vibe to them. It reminds me of some of August Alsina's music at the time. I do feel like these songs are very effective in the context of this album. But then there are some weaker cuts on this project, which I think is expected. For example, Go Mode, which I would just like to call Work Hard, Play Hard by Wiz Khalifa Part 2. It's got a very loud instrumental, and it just reminds me of the type of songs that you hear in those American young adult movies or TV shows where the freshman is at their first obnoxious college party and everyone's just drinking and fraternizing, etc. It's just slightly noisy, but I will say that this is a hype song, probably a good one for the gym. I'm in two minds about Rich Talk. 1 minute I think it's okay, mainly because of the guitar sample and the instrumental, but then sometimes I just think the song is a bit drab. Rich Talk, stay. I do feel like if this song was given to Roddy Ricch, however, that people would probably call this song a hit. It's just not my vibe. Although I do enjoy the flow of the second verse, it's not enough to take it into the stratosphere of, oh, I actually enjoyed this song. The instrumental for Ho Games had a lot of potential for some better lyrics. The beat in isolation, despite being very simple yet effective, is met with some very ineffective and extremely simple lyrics. It has too much simplicity is what I'm trying to say. I feel like if you've got a simple beat, then you should try to make the lyrics a little more detailed, like an opposites attract kind of thing. The chorus of Hoops is once again very catchy, no surprises there. Catchy hooks are Kid Ink's bag, although once again we are met with some very simple, but this time cheesy lyrics. I'm a spoiled little baby like a toddler. Her last nigga was a shrimp. I'm a lobster. Don't want me to win. Is not a winner in my eyes. It's just repetitive. If somebody put a gun to my head and asked me to recite any other lyric besides Don't Want Me to Win, I'd be dead right now because I can't remember any other lyric. The instrumental also isn't anything to do a double take at. Everything else on this album just kind of falls in the middle for me. But altogether, I will say that Kid Ink has a very firm grasp on who he is as an artist. Kid Ink is very aware that he's not the most spiritual miracle lyrical rapper. Do I think that's a justification for the fact that the lyrics on this project don't stand out outside of choruses? No, but when has Kid Ink ever been that artist? He's not Drake, who's always giving you some deep emotional lyrics. Kid Ink knows he makes music for the club. Kid Ink also knows how to make music for his day ones. Might I also add that he's still very much able to do all of this by himself, and that he doesn't need a Chris Brown feature or Mustard on the production, despite the obvious fact that if he did have those guys on his songs, then literally just by association, he would be charting and have way more platinum plaques. Still, just for me personally, I would love to hear Kid Ink, Chris Brown, and Mustard do an EP or a mixtape or something together. Those three really are a winning trio. The thing that catches me out with this album, however, is that I think that this album could struggle when it comes to memorability. Unless you are a dedicated Kid Ink fan, it's probably unlikely that you will remember this album in 6 months' time. And it's mainly because the album is the same old Kid Ink, which is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because it shows that Kid Ink can be consistent with his sound even 10 years later, but it's a curse because nobody expects anything different from him. And then that's when we'll start to see a clash between people who adore him because he's able to revisit and remake his old sound so easily, and others who don't adore him as much and feel like his music is dated and stuck in 2014. And given how fast the music industry is changing, it's quite difficult to grasp how the public may perceive Kid Ink today. It almost feels like the scene has completely moved on, but Kid Ink is still very much in 2014. But altogether, Alive has a ton of songs which are catchy, fun, easy to digest, reeks of nostalgia at times. It has variety too. There are a few tracks that I could do without, but I feel like this is a good project with no huge names tied to it. I would say it's probably the best thing Kid Ink has released since 2015, and if you are a Kid Ink fan or early to mid 2010s pop rap fan, then you should absolutely give this album a listen. And let me know what you guys think. Did you guys agree with my thoughts on this album? Did you guys think I was too harsh? Did the album stand out to you? Did it fade into oblivion for you? Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, whilst you're at it, be sure to follow me on Twitter, guys. I'm trying my best to build a following on there, trying to be a little bit more consistent with my tweets and engage with people when it comes to music and any opinions on it. So be sure to follow me on Twitter at @theunofficialANR. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I will see you guys in the next video.